Welcome to the Mental Insights Podcast. This is a community aimed at understanding all sides of mental health, addiction, and homelessness. Each interview will include either a personal story or an expert's advice within one of these fields. The goal of this project is to promote awareness, guidance, and support for anyone who is affected by these challenges. Thank you all for listening. Welcome back to part 2 of the first episode of season 2 of the Mental Insights podcast. This is your host, Brennan Cutuli. We are here today with Komron Rahmonbek. In the first part of this series, we spoke about anxiety, panic attacks, and for part 2, we're going to be speaking more about intrusive thoughts and the effective treatments within this measure. So to really start off, Komron, I just want to bring in the aspect of how really pertinent, how much intrusive thoughts happen within our daily life. So within a study published in the Journal of Obsessive Compulsive and Related Disorders, more than 94% of people have unwanted intrusive thoughts and impulses. Can you explain what intrusive thoughts are for someone who may not know of that term?
Sure. So intrusive thoughts are thoughts that are disturbing to a lot of people, and those could be thoughts like, um, let's say, jumping off the bridge when you're on the bridge, or when you're in the kitchen with your friend and you have a knife laying around and you have that thought that, just stabbing someone, or shouting in a church or like a place of worship, or in the bus or any crowded place. Those type of thoughts that kind of make you feel that there's something wrong with you, that you're going crazy. But like you said, they're more common than we think, and for a lot of people, actually, they feel ashamed to kind of talk about them. They feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me, so I better just keep it to myself, and I'm not going to say that I had this thought, even though I had it. Oh, and one more intrusive thought that is very common as well is, uh, mothers that had just had a newborn, they are afraid of harming, like, of the thoughts of harming the child. So those are pretty much the most common intrusive thoughts, but there are too many of them.
Thank you for that. I think it's important to understand what it can be, and not that it's something that you are personally thinking yourselves. It's something that is happening within your brain to bring about these thoughts that aren't your own personal thoughts, where I think people can get misconstrued that they believe that they're thinking they should do these things and kind of can drive them into certain places. When someone has these intrusive thoughts, then, as we spoke a little bit about anxiety, of that acceptance. So how can someone learn to accept what intrusive thoughts are and how to handle them within their everyday, and not to misconstrue an intrusive thought versus something that they're rationally thinking throughout the day?
Sure. So the first thing when you have a intrusive thought is to see your reaction. If you're reacting with outrage, with disgust, if you are just upset of, overall having this thought, it means that you're not going to act on it. So this is the first thing that you need to realize, is that um, these thoughts are just a product of the society that we live in. You might have watched some movie, like, horror movie, and you picked them up maybe there, or so just throughout your life, you somehow picked up those thoughts, and uh, thoughts just generate randomly. This is something that we have to realize that, but thoughts just come and go. They're like clouds. They just pass by, and we choose to react to a certain thought. If you want to just test this claim, they just sit and just observe thoughts. They don't, you don't generate them. They just come. All of a sudden, you might have a thought about something come up, and this and that. And the thought that is dominant is what you will react to. So when you have an intrusive thought of harming someone, for example, you react powerfully to that thought with a lot of emotional attachment, right? that is when it becomes intrusive. That is the moment you react to that with a lot of emotional power, is when you kind of make this thought stand out. So that thought becomes dominant. So let's say you had the thought of stabbing someone with a knife in the kitchen. So next time you're in the kitchen and you have a knife there and your friend is there and this thought comes up again, and boom, you just react to that immediately. And you might use avoidance behavior, maybe leave the kitchen or hide the knife or do something, distract yourself. And that is what makes the intrusive thought just a problem to you. So you might have had that in the past when your anxiety level was lower, right? On the 100% uh, level, let's say your anxiety level was at 20 or 30%, and you had that thought and you didn't react to that with that much emotional power, it didn't cause a problem to you. But when your anxiety level goes up to, let's say, 60 to 80, and you have this intrusive thoughts, now you react to that and that becomes a problem. So pretty much this is the mechanism that intrusive thoughts work with. They are closely tied with a high level of anxiety to actually become stuck in your mind.
To speak on the aspect of what someone really can do when they start to notice these, when they start to experience these, since it is tied and related within anxiety, obviously you spoke in the previous episode about some of the steps to seek out treatment, but when someone has intrusive thoughts, what kind of help can they seek initially? And, what's the jurisdiction over if they should seek out help right away, or if they, can do some personal healing on their own? What are kind of the steps in that regard?
Absolutely. So when you start having a problem with intrusive thoughts, the first thing is to just sit there with your thoughts. Try to just be there with your thoughts and just observe your behavior. So let's go back to the example of kitchen and knives and your friend, right? So when you sit there with that and that intrusive thought comes up, the first thing you will notice is that you will have an automatic thought. So the cognitive model works as follows. First, you have a trigger. So the trigger is you're in that situation and you have that thought, right? Then you have a set of automatic thoughts. So the set of automatic thoughts is I'm going to harm someone, I'll do something that is bad, and you just start feeling bad about it. So, and after that, you have a set of reactions. You have a physiological reaction, which is an avoidance behavior. So you want to escape the situation. You want to maybe use your phone to distract yourself. You want to do something to kind of just go out of your skin to kind of just escape the situation. Then you have emotional reaction, fear, dread, shame, and everything. And then you have a mental reaction, which is, thoughts that there's something wrong with you and whatnot. So what you need to deal with all of those three reactions, and the main one, the first one that is easy to fix is avoidance behavior. So you definitely don't want to avoid it or escape the situation, and you definitely don't want to distract. So just be fully present in that situation. When you have this thought, don't try to suppress it, don't try to do something about it. Just observe this thought just develop fully, right? And when you sit there and you just see how anxiety just tries to make you do something, get out of this discomfort, you will empower yourself over that thought, because up to that point you have reacted to that thought, you dreaded that thought. But when you just sit there and fully accept it, then you kind of just grow more, you become more than that intrusive thought, and this is how you overcome it. Same goes with your emotional reaction. Just embrace it fully. Just let it be. Just let it do its worst. Because keep in mind that you're never going to react to that because you feel disgusted by having this thought. You fear that thought, and just that is enough evidence for you to kind of see that you are never going to act on it. One thing that is being spoken about with this especially after this movie The Secret is that thoughts materialize, but this is just not true. You know, even the book itself, someone had to actually sit and write it. So it takes action, it takes effort for you to do something. And when you don't have the desire to act on a certain thought, then you never will do it. So you don't have a desire to stab your friend. So there will be no action from your part to actually do that. So just sit there with this intrusive thoughts and observe these thoughts without reacting to them, while fully being confident that you're never going to act on these thoughts. I think this is the most effective way to actually just accept and just become more than that fear.
On the other side of this, you spoke a little bit about some of the common mistakes, some of the, mishaps that people use within the recovery of anxiety in the previous episode. Can you speak more about some of the common mistakes that we're seeing within the recovery community of anxiety, of intrusive thoughts, of panic attacks, and, what should my listeners be aware of some of these, whether it's a technique or whether it's a certain, activity or aspect of recovery that some people may have and may experience harm due to, some things that they may need to, shy away from per se.
Absolutely. So there are actually a number of things that people with anxiety do that prevent them from just seeing anxiety for the way it is. But the main one would probably be relying on a short-term solutions like a quick pills and uh, this type of things. Like I would say maybe breathing techniques, because that's the thing. When you type in, the first thing that people do is they go to Google. And if you go to YouTube or something, then you have all those people talking about breathing techniques to kind of cure your anxiety or heal your anxiety forever. This is the wrong approach. The lasting way to kind of view to see your anxiety, to learn about your anxiety, is to do the hard work and just actually explore your anxiety on your own, to go out and expose yourself to that, to journal your experience with the right set of questions, like what are the avoidances that I used, how was my anxiety level today, and just keeping track of your overall progress and just getting the full picture of your anxiety. So this is what a lot of people with anxiety don't want to hear about, and that's why they fall for those magic pill type of solutions, because they just want a solution and they want it now. I mean, I've been there myself, and I know that I had to look. I was just looking for magic pill for like maybe 2 years of my own struggle with anxiety, because I didn't want to do the hard work. But eventually I came to realize that if I want to actually, find the lasting solution, then I just have to do the hard work of just going out and just feeling it. Another thing that a lot of people do is they seek solution in the wrong places. So they would talk to their friends, their family members, people they trust, but at the same time, those people don't really know how to help you. They might know. If they do, then that's wonderful. But most of the time, this is the case, and they could tell them things like, "Oh, just snap out of it. Oh, just there's nothing wrong with you. You're making this up." So that kind of discourages them from seeking real help, because it makes them think that no one gets me. Like, it makes them just develop distrust towards people in general. So this is a huge mistake that a lot of people make. Seek help from the people who know how to help you. Go to communities that promote recovery, that talk about the positive effects. Read the recovery stories. Try to learn from them. One of the things that I did myself as well, I try to, like, if you want to be successful, you have to hang out with the successful people. So what I did, I tried to brainwash myself, in for the lack of a better word, to kind of just get into the mindset of the people who have gone through the process successfully. So just getting yourself into that mindset is a huge step forward, and from that you will start seeing the positive solutions, and then you will start implementing, and that's how you will get better overall.
You brought up some great, effective treatment measures that I think a lot of people can, take within themselves. You speak about meditation, you speak about mindfulness, you spoke about different types of therapy so far as well. You spoke about having a community that provides a lot of resources, whether it's reaching out to people who have experienced similar challenges, whether it's anxiety, panic disorders, intrusive thoughts. Like you're saying, you surround yourself in the right environment and you'll be able to take those next steps forward. Within people who, like you said, don't have the resources around them because maybe a family member or maybe a friend is kind of demoting them. They're kind of saying, your emotions, your thoughts aren't valid. They might be restricted in order to, want to go out and seek that help. But I think the beauty of the internet nowadays is people have that access within, terms of their comfortability. I want you to kind of take this time to speak about maybe some online resources that you know of, and as well share with the audience about the work that you do, Mr. Anxiety Free, and how you could help anybody who is seeking out some of these resources online who may need that initial step to reach out before they can be face to face with somebody to truly do this healing work of themselves.
Absolutely. There is definitely a huge problem with um, with online effective online communities right now. And one of the goals that I had, actually, initially I got started with this Mr. Anxiety Free project, is when I recovered myself and I just started talking about, anxiety and recovery on Instagram. So after that, I quickly noticed that there's just a lack of resources for people to kind of find the support that they need along their recovery journey. And not a lot of people are talking about recovery. What you will notice about the anxiety communities on Instagram, or most of the forums that you visit, is that they promote just this hopelessness. So they talk about the negative sides of anxiety, and they just perpetuate the cycle of helplessness. And that is what I wanted, where I wanted to differentiate myself and just focus on the recovery mindset. And that is exactly what this Instagram page and the blog that I have, and just the message that I communicate to the world is about. Just recovery mindset. I just say that recovery is possible, you can do it. And all of my messages are just helping people to stay focused on that path to recovery. So that being said, online, in terms of online communities, to be honest, I haven't found any, so I had to just create my own. So that's a shameless promotion, I guess. So MrAnxietyFree.com is a place. I created a forum of people who focus on recovery. There I have a plan. Um, I had a bit of a different structure. Now I want to make it more accessible. So it'll be $10 a month. So you will have a recovery plan, and you will have a support, and you'll have an opportunity to do coaching as well for a much more affordable great prices. So I just want to say that if you're in a place where you just don't have that type of support, then try to create that uh, atmosphere for yourself. You don't really have to have people to guide you along. I did it on my own, so it is possible. You don't have to. I mean, I created this community just because I lacked, I created with a thought that, like, what did I lack when I had anxiety myself? So that was my intention. But you obviously can do it on your own as well. And the best resources would be books. Just educate yourself on anxiety. Learn about CBT. Read books by Claire Weeks. There's a wonderful book. It truly encourages you. And just um, reach out to people who talk about the recovery. You would be surprised. You can actually email people and they respond, especially when they have recovered, when they have gone through this themselves. They would be more than glad to kind of help you with that. But you have to realize that asking for reassurance isn't going to help you. So when you reach out to those people, ask about what you can do. What are the actions that you can take? How can you be how what focus on actions pretty much. Don't just email about is having the racing heart normal, or those are the types of things that you can Google yourself and find them out. But try to be more practical with your questions, and that way you'll kind of just learn more about your anxiety faster.
Thank you for that. And for everybody listening, just to know, in the show notes, we will have Komron's website. So you'll be able to link with Mr. Anxiety Free to get more information, check out his blog, check out the resources that he has. So if you want to join that community, you certainly can. You spoke about how you created this resource that you weren't able to access beforehand as you were experiencing the issues of anxiety, of panic attacks. And for my last question, I kind of want to full circle this whole experience, this whole life journey that you've been on thus far. And with it being said, you've been able to create this resource, but with some money, I think it's always the opportunity to do more. And in this hypothetical situation, I want to ask you, if you were given $1 billion, where would you allocate these resources to create a community, to create a resource, whatever it may be, in order to help treat people effectively within the avenue of anxiety, of panic attacks, of intrusive thoughts? Kind of what would your model be? Give us a kind of brief rundown of what you would want to do with that money to help treat and prevent some of these issues within people within our society today.
So the way I would approach it, I would create like a center with based on it'll be based pretty much online, most likely, but it will be free of charge and based on purely on donations. Because what I notice is that you know that's part of the reason why I want to make my services as affordable as possible, is because people with anxiety, they go through a lot of stuff, and sometimes they have it hard, to kind of work and provide for their families. When I was going through anxiety myself, I kind of like struggled to work because of this constant fear. So I had to do some part-time work, and I was going to college full-time back then myself. So I know the hardship. So you definitely need this support in the beginning, at least, to kind of encourage you to do that. And I believe that it's supposed to be free of charge, but since we live in a world where we need to provide for ourselves as well, it's really hard to do that. So I would definitely create a center online based, like platform that will just provide help to people for free, and if they want, they can donate to support that cause later on. So that is, I think, what is missing right now, just this level of support. See, I recently spoke to a good friend of mine who's a therapist, and what he said was very profound, is that a lot of the therapists are on Instagram, but most of them are not successful. And the reason for that is because they don't, they have this code that is, I think it's becoming more flexible right now, but they're not supposed to share their own struggles with anxiety. And most of them do actually struggle with that. And what I think what we need to do is more people who have recovered from it, they need to start speaking up.
Mhm.
And as we start speaking up about it, we encourage other people to come out and speak as well, and share their struggles, and start working on recovery. And I think the center that I will create will be purely based on the people who are comfortable just sharing their own experiences. It will be like influencers, right? Mental health influencers who are sharing their emotions, who are reaching wider audience, who are creating this awareness of mental health in the positive way, not in the way that is, you know, oh, there is no solution and you just have to deal with it for the rest of your life, but rather speak about anxiety in a hopeful way, in a way that is actionable, in a way that is achievable.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Komron. I appreciate it. And, I appreciate you taking this time out to be on the Mental Insights podcast as the first guest of season 2. We'll have everything linked in the show notes. We have the first part of the episode already released, and you guys will love hearing the topics of anxiety, panic attacks, intrusive thoughts, and what not to do during recovery. Komron Rahmonbek provided a great approach to what you can do within his own experiences. So I want to thank you for being here today and sharing your own experiences, your own thoughts within this approach. And my audience will surely be in touch within the show notes to help build our community together. So thank you, Komron.
Appreciate it, Brandon, and thanks for the opportunities. You had a very good questions and a lot of good insights that I have actually came to see myself. So thank you for this opportunity, and for your time as well.
Thank you all for listening to this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and review to this podcast. Let us know what you learned from this episode and what you would like to hear in the next episode. This has been your host, Brennan Cutuli of the Mental Insights podcast. Have a wonderful day.